look, Alan's on Zoom. All right, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the Clearlake City Council meeting located at Clearlake City Hall Council Chambers at 14050 Olympic Drive, Clearlake. Today is Thursday, November 3rd, 2022, and this is the regular City Council meeting beginning at 6 p.m. My name is Vice Mayor Purdock, and I'll be sitting in for the mayor who's on Zoom. Madam Clerk, would you mind calling the roll?
Councilmember Overton?
Here.
Councilmember Kramer?
Here.
Councilmember Claffey?
Here.
Vice Mayor Purdock?
Here.
Mayor Slotin?
Here.
As a course and matter of these meetings, I want you to know that these meetings are viewable in person here at the council chambers and also via live stream on the city's YouTube channel. We also invite people to join us on Zoom, the Zoom link listed within our public announcement for this meeting. All items on the agenda will be open for public comment before final action is taken. Citizens wishing to introduce written material into the record at a public meeting on any item or request to provide a copy of any written material to the Administrative Services Director or City Clerk prior to the meeting date so that the material may be distributed to the City Council prior to the meeting. Speakers must also restrict their comments to an item as it appears on the agenda and stay within 3 minutes. The mayor has the discretion of limiting a total discussion time for an item. So with that, Mr. Fleur, any changes to our agenda?
No modifications, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Vice
Do we
Mayor.
have roll call?
We did.
Oh, did I miss that?
No,
You said here.
Present.
You said here. How are you feeling, Mr. Mayor?
I guess a little
So you're present there, but anyway.
present there, but still COVID is not doing.
I'm moving around on the agenda. I do it a little different than you tonight.
Okay.
All right. So, Mr. Claffey, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
I pledge
to the
allegiance
flag of the
to
United
the
States
flag
of America,
of the United States of America and to the republic to which it stands, nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty
indivisible,
and justice for all.
and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Mr. Jones, would you mind offering an invocation?
No problem.
Thank you, sir.
Our kind Father in heaven, we're grateful for this evening. We're grateful that we could be gathered here in Clearlake City Hall Chambers to do the work of the city and our citizenry and constituents here. We ask a blessing be upon us that we can do that work well and faithfully, and that we could serve thee. We're grateful for these opportunities. We're grateful for the rain that's come here and that will come. We pray that it will nourish our area and bring life back. We're grateful for the items that are on the agenda tonight and pray that the council will be inspired to do the right thing on behalf of the citizens here in Clear Lake. And this we pray in the name of thy Son. Amen.
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 Thank you, sir. All right, now we'll get to that. Mr. Fleur, any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
I'd like to make the motion that we accept the agenda as presented.
Second. I have a motion by Councilwoman Overton and a second by Councilmember Kramer. Are we doing roll call, or are we doing?
If you refresh, it should be open.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Oh, that's right. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Could we do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Overton? Aye. Councilmember Kramer?
Aye.
Councilmember Claffey?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdock?
Aye.
Mayor Slotin?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next on the agenda is presentations. Our first presentation of the evening will be by our Clear Lake Police Department and Animal Control, and it is the November's Adoptable Dogs. Chief White.
Good evening. We will not be having adoptable dogs because of the correspondence of the, we just had the ones last week, so
Okay.
there's no real update to provide. As far as overall numbers, I can tell you that since that meeting, they did transfer numerous animals out. So they are making forward progress on that and continuing to try to get dogs adopted. There's plenty at the shelter if anybody wants to get a holiday dog and keep them. They check out with the shelter and see what they have. The listing's available on our website, clearlake.ca.us. If you click on animal control, it'll take you to North Bay Animal Services and provide all the information.
Thank you, Chief. Do we have a current head count on our canines at the shelter?
I think we're still close to the 70 number because
Okay.
we had some leave, and then there were some that have come in, but my understanding is they're making forward progress. I went out there yesterday, and things were looking better.
Thank
but
you.
They still need to clear out. So.
Yeah, that was concerning. I also like to thank members of the media and our public that are sharing this information, that we do have dogs available for adoption, and I hope that the public and any visitors that are interested in adopting a dog could help us out, find themselves a lovely pet.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Mayor, one other update was we did have a visit from the grand jury. They came by the animal control shelter, and they gave us an email saying they're very impressed with the progress the city's made, and particularly the relationship with North Bay. So I'm sure they'll continue doing their work, or we'll hear something more official, but they sent us an email regarding that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and congratulations on the good work you're doing out there.
Thumbs up.
Next on the agenda, presentation of certificates of appreciation for our Halloween event volunteers. Ms. Viramontes.
Just 1 second, sir. Good evening. Monday, we had our annual city Halloween where we do candy bags, and we had pizza for the members of our community. So I just wanted to share a few pictures and information about it. It was our 13th annual event since 2006. It was 100% funded by donations and volunteers, and we provided candy and pizza for over 400 kids. Some adults do. It couldn't have happened without the generosity of Cecil's Pizza, who donated 30 pizzas to the event.
Wow. Self-employed.
So here's some photos. Here's a list, a complete list of the sponsors who donated all the candy and the pizza, and we have certificates for everybody right now.
Would you like to read those names?
Yeah, sure.
And then we can present, since they're not here, except
Perfect.
for a couple.
So we had Cecil's Pizza was the biggest. We had Vicky and Chuck Leonard who come every year. We had Chief Andrew White, Alan Flora, Karen Valentine, Michael Peralt, Peg TV, Melissa Swanson, Elvis Cook, Mark Roberts, Justin Sturgill, the Viramontes family, Aaron McCarrick, Nikki Burrell, Daniela Justice, and Russ Purdock.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peg TV. Thank you, Thomas. You do a lot. Thomas does a lot of work, kind of in the background, but wouldn't be possible without you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Chief? Thank you, sir.
While he's doing that, I do have one more thing to add. It's not regarding City Halloween, it's regarding the trunk or treat that happened. It would not have been as big and as successful without Joyce Overton stepping in and really doing it good. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I think I've given out to all that are here. When I find it. I will get it right to you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your help on that presentation. Next is our public comment. This is time for any member of the public to discuss to the city council or address the city council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter and jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment, and the council cannot take action on any non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed in the next available agenda. Please note that public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. I have one request for public comment, and that would be by Mr. Bruno Sabatier, our supervisor for District 2.
Good evening, Vice Mayor. It's on?
It's on.
Usually I'm much louder than this.
Just have to get
Good
right
evening,
on
Vice
top
Mayor
of
and
it.
council members. I spent a afternoon one day at Main Street Bar and Grill outside eating some food, and I couldn't help but smell what was coming down from the pump station. And as I've been driving next to the sewer pump station, also near the senior center, I am now purposefully lowering my windows just to see, is there a smell? And my reason for doing so is we should never be smelling that. It should not be something that we're subjected to, especially near businesses. There's houses that live nearby these facilities. So I've been working with special districts, and I just wanted to let you know, as well as the public, that now they are collecting complaints.
Go ahead.
Just making sure. Now they are collecting complaints. Before they weren't keeping track of that data, but they are keeping track. And so if anybody is subjected to a smell of sewage around the pump stations, please call 707-263-0119. And then I hope to come back to you all for when we have some of that data so that we can have a bigger discussion on how we can ensure that that does not happen. I know that I did not enjoy my time at the Main Street Bar and Grill when I was eating, and I am certain that the owners of that restaurant probably would like to have that go away completely and never have to be subjected to that again. And again, we have some pump stations nearby residences, and that is the same scenario as far as I'm concerned. So just know that we're looking to collect data before we can decide what action to take. Right now, our director is looking at other potential fixes also to reduce the smell, and eventually we'll accumulate all of this information and bring it back to the council so we can have a larger discussion on what to do next, but just wanted to alert you.
Thank you very
And I
much.
see you here, but you're also out there.
Thank you for your attention to that.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Please come up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Margaret Garcia. I just was wondering what the status is with the splash pad, and is that the extent of the designs or the things that are going to go in there? Because it looks very sparse.
Right, and as we shared, we can't discuss that with you, but I would ask you to maybe contact Mr. Flora or one of his staff members, and they can get you up to date on what's happening with the splash pad.
Okay, all
Thank
right,
you
that
very
sounds good.
much.
Thank you.
I mean, I could share a
Okay,
quick
if
update
you're
now if you'd
available.
like. So the equipment that is installed, that's all that's going to be there. There is a piece of equipment that we're waiting on for the controller. And there's a little bit of dirt work and grass seeding needs to be done around, but the splash pad itself, all the equipment is there.
In other words, all the things that, I guess, bring water down, that's it? That's the...
Yeah, all the objects above ground will be spraying water. There's buckets that will dump, and then there's also sprayers that will be coming out of the ground.
And when do you think that that's going to be complete? That's the other thing I was wondering.
If you'd like me to address that. So the part is supposed to be in the next week or so. As I said, we have the dirt work at this point. It will probably be open and operational sometime in the spring. We don't expect to open it up to the public this
Right.
winter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you, Mr. Flora, for updating us on the splash pad. Okay, next is our consent agenda. Things
Mr. Vice
listed.
Mayor,
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there someone on Zoom? I
we have a
misunderstood.
hand raised on Zoom.
Please, go ahead.
Cheryl Allman.
Sorry, I'm on a tablet. I need to have my hand raised.
Okay.
It happens. Thank you, Cheryl. Anyone else, Madam Clerk?
There are no other hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda. Any changes from council? Any items to be pulled? Anyone from the public wishing to pull an item from the consent agenda or on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on this item on the
Seeing
Zoom.
none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
I have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Councilmember Claffey. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Or do I need to do a roll call?
You do need to
I'm going to do a roll call under the advice of legal counsel. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Through all of them, all right.
Council, Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer,
Aye.
Councilmember Claffey,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdock,
Aye.
Mayor Slotin.
Aye.
All right, moving on to regular business, item number 9. Consideration of adoption of Resolution 2022-61, authorizing the application and adoption of the PLHA plan for the Permanent Local Housing Application Program. Sorry? I thought I said allocation. Mr. Flora.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and council members. So back in 2017, Governor Brown signed a number of housing bills, and one of them including establishing a $75 recording fee on real estate documents, and part of the funding for that went into a fund that created this permanent local housing allocation program. Each jurisdiction in the state receives an allocation of funds every year based on the transactions that are recorded. There's a competitive side to the program, and then there's this allocation side, which we still have to put an application in, and there's program requirements, but it's not competitive for the funds that we have allocated to us. So over the 5-year period, they're estimating Clearlake's allocation to be a little bit over $875,000. So it's not an enormous amount of money, but it does add up. This was something that was not well publicized to the jurisdictions. I know here locally in our county, we didn't even realize this money was allocated to us until late last year. But we're at a point now where the 2019 funds, if we don't apply by the end of this month, we will lose the 2019 allocation, and they will reallocate it within HCD to other housing programs. So we need to get this plan done, and we need to get an application submitted so we don't lose that. So I guess it's in the plan. I don't recall off the top of my head what the 2019 number is, but around 150,000, I believe, and then going up a little bit from there. So we tried to put together a number of ideas in the plan, giving us some flexibility as we move forward. As you know, we do have 3 affordable housing projects that are in the works currently. 2 are under construction. One will be is in the planning phase and will be in construction next year. Most of these projects, there's just there's a lot of other things. For example, the one that's in the planning phase, apparently there was some ancient volcanic ash discovered on the site, which is causing geotechnical problems and extra expenses for them. And I don't know, you're familiar with this. I don't want to get into all the details, but because of the changes in state law related to these type of projects, they don't follow the normal process. And we don't have the normal opportunity to condition these projects or require off-site improvements and so forth for, transportation impacts, for example. And we have been able to negotiate some of those things with these developers. But I think there may be some additional things that we might like to do if we had a little bit of extra funding we could bring to the table. So that's kind of the idea on some of these. As you also know, when actually these first two projects are completed, our obligations under state law, our RENA allocation for affordable housing will actually be met much earlier than the state's goals, which is a little unusual. But there's also state goals for developing median and moderate income housing, not the affordable stuff, which, you know, we're not anywhere near meeting those allocations. And, you know, we all know that there's just a general problem here in Lake County and the city of Clearlake in being able to develop market rate housing. So I would like to use some of this money for that. It does allow us to use this funding for workforce housing up to 120% of the average median income. So I think there's some stuff we can get into sort of the entry level. I mean, kind of in the area of what we're trying to focus on with the homestead program and that type of thing. So those are some of the things that we've went to the put into the plan in hopes that it'll still provide us a little bit of flexibility in figuring out the details of that. We at least need to apply for the 2019 amount, as I mentioned, before the end of this year. My thought on that was to put that funds towards the infrastructure that's still not complete at the Hope Center. For part of it, I don't think it would take the whole amount, and then use the remaining amount for acquisition of a few pieces of property for the workforce housing piece. And you know, I don't know how much into the weeds you want to get on that, but I think there's a number of options there. For example, there's some city-owned property currently where there's vacant land adjacent to it that the property owners, you know, some of which I've talked to, don't have an interest in really doing anything with. So maybe we could purchase up some adjacent pieces, kind of merge those together, and then make a parcel available that's a little bit more attractive for someone to develop some housing. So I don't know, maybe I should talk a little bit, give a little bit more context for the Hope Center part of it. I know Councilmember Overton shared some concerns that she has with that. And you know, when projects either have a use permit or reach a certain level of investment in the city, we require through our municipal code or use permit conditions imposed by the Planning Commission that curb, gutter, and sidewalk be installed if it's not part of that. And that was part of the Hope Center project, and the costs of doing that project, I think, escalated at the end, and somehow that part of the project got missed. And the city felt like that we needed to get that project open, and so we did give them a certificate of occupancy without completing that, which is not something that we like to do, or really an advantage that, you know, we give other people in the community when they do projects. Certainly acknowledging that. Now, at the time, they had a plan, and they applied for additional funds to do the project as well as some other improvements there. And then I'm not familiar with the exact details on what happened, but those grants were not successful. And so at this point, I'm not aware of any funds that they're pursuing. You know, if the council doesn't want to choose that project, that's fine. At this point, I'm just trying to figure out a way to get curb, gutter, and sidewalk at the Hope Center. And so I thought that might be something that could be done relatively quickly and get that complete. But that's kind of the overview of the plan. I'll be happy to try and address any questions you have. Of course, if you have other ideas for projects, I'm sure we can figure out a way to work that in. And I think, you know, we can come back and amend the plan later, but at the very least, we need to be able to get something adopted so we can apply and use the 2019 funds.
Thank you, Mr. Flora. Any questions of staff?
Just,
Mr. Kramer?
just just to clarify, you need a specific recommendation from us for one of those projects?
No, I need you to adopt a plan that has some projects in it that we can then use to apply.
And then what we decide on can happen when we know that we have gotten the money? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I just need enough projects to utilize the 2019 funds at least. And then I think we could adjust from there. But if we don't adopt the plan and submit an application by the end of this month, then HCD is going to take that.
I get that, but all you're saying though is that the three housing projects plus the Hope Center, you're just going to put all four of those in, and we don't have to be specific about which one we're spending the money on. Okay.
No, I mean, if you look at the plan, like they have this formula that they want, so they ask you to put the percentage of each year's funds that you expect to use for those projects. So, I took a stab at it. I expect, based on other interactions on programs with HCD, well, it can be difficult at some time. They're usually pretty flexible in working through, so I'm sure that this will be no different if we say, hey, here's this idea, or we need to use a lot more for this one project, that they'd be able to accommodate that. So.
Thank you, Mr. Laura.
Thank you. Mayor Slutin.
So we can use purchase both programs would apply in there?
In some cases, perhaps. I mean, the funding has to go to create workforce housing that does not exceed 120% of the average median income. So to the extent that a homestead program applicant, I think we probably could, I don't know if we want to do this because of reporting, but we probably could purchase property that we could then use for the homestead program, but we would be required to verify that that applicant not only met the requirements of the homestead program, but did not exceed 120% of AMI. And then similarly, as long as the city employee did not make more than 120% of AMI, I think that would be an eligible use.
Okay. All right, I guess that's something you can figure out.
Yeah, I mean, my preference would be to try to use it to create kind of a little bit larger projects, say maybe 10 units or something like that, of market rate housing that was easier to kind of manage their reporting on it rather than, just buy 20 random lots in the city or something like that. But we'll have to work through that, yeah.
Seems like you have some flexibility, so take advantage of it.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff before I open it for public comment? Okay, at this time, I'd like to open up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this item is welcome to do so now. Madam Clerk, anyone on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Bring it back to council for action.
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve, I guess it's Resolution 2022-61, City of Clearlake, authorizing resolution of the City of Clearlake, authorizing the application and adopting of the PLHA plan for permanent local housing allocation program.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Kramer and a second by Councilmember Claffey. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Councilmember Overton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer?
Aye.
Councilmember Claffey?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdock?
Aye.
Mayor Slotin?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you all. Moving on to item number 10, discussion and consideration of an agreement between the City of Clearlake, the Lake County Development Corporation, and the Clearlake Chamber of Commerce for the use of the Clearlake Visitors Center facility. Mr. Flora.
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor. So as you know, the city entered into a lease agreement with the Clearlake Chamber of Commerce a little over 10 years ago. And that agreement technically officially ended in September, although there are some holding over clauses. But it's time to do a new agreement. But in addition, we've been talking for some time with the Lake County Economic Development Corporation about having more of a presence here in the city of Clearlake. And the EDC received funding for establishment of a small business development center through the SBA in Lake County for, if not the first time in several decades. And we really want those services to be provided here in the city of Clearlake. Currently, the EDC has a physical office location in an office in the city hall in the city of Lakeport. And so we've talked with the Chamber of Commerce, with the EDC over a number of months and trying to figure out if there's a way to use, for both organizations to use this facility. I believe that we have something laid out that will work well for everyone. And I don't know if I need to get into the details any more than that, other than just addressing any questions that the council members may have.
Yeah, thank you for your work on that. I did see a little discrepancy in the diagram, but it's just where a desk sits, and that can be easily modified. Any other comments from council? Mr. Mayor?
Nope.
Very
Nope.
good. At this point, I'd like to open it up for public comment. Seeing no one in the chamber, anyone on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom.
Very well, then I'll bring
Sir,
back.
Mr. Vice
oh,
Mayor, if I could just make.
Yes, please.
It is in the staff report and action, I just want to clarify. So my original hope had been to have the EDC and the Clear Lake Chamber adopt the agreement before bringing it to the council, but because of some other priorities that were my responsibility, it took a while to make that happen. And so we're bringing it to you first. So I would like to make sure that I have the ability to make some minor changes to the agreement if requested by the Chamber or the EDC, if it doesn't, impact the intent of what the council's approving here tonight.
That was important. Thank you for that clarification. Any questions? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement and authorize the city manager to make minor adjustments as necessary.
No, second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Claffey and a second by Councilmember Overton. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Councilmember Overton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer?
Aye.
Councilmember Claffey?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdock?
Aye.
Mayor Slotin?
Aye.
Very well, moving on to item number 11. Item number 11 is one that involves a family member of mine, so I am involved in this, so I have to recuse myself, and I would like Councilmember Claffey to sit in my stead. Plan on gavel somebody down.
Oh, we're hungry.
All right, item number 11, discussion and consideration of providing city financing to complete the 36th Avenue Road and storm drainage construction project. Mr. Floor?
Yes, Councilmember Claffey, council members. So this project has not been a very good example of a project, but we are where we are. So I guess back in 2020, we negotiated a deal with a housing developer to sell them 18 city-owned lots at a discounted rate in exchange for developing single-family homes on the lots and improving and paving a section of 36th Avenue. And you'll recall this section has always been kind of a mess with the drainage there. It's it's on the west side of Phillips, between Phillips and Eureka, where because of some drainage problems, the dirt road kind of navigated all over the place to avoid that, and it was almost impassable during certain periods of the year. And so we thought, rather than the city actually funding that, this might be a great way to get this going. Well, there were some personal and professional problems with that particular developer. The project was started and then abandoned, and we did have, the city does technically still have the opportunity to claw those properties back if the performance, the terms in the agreement weren't complete, which is still not the case. But that's going to be, a messy scenario that we don't really want to do if we can avoid it. So the developer's wife received the properties in the divorce, and she brought a new kind of team to the table, which has been working to try to get this project back on track. So there were 2 houses that were constructed and not completed. We had all number of problems there, which are pretty much resolved now. For example, the houses weren't built according to the site plans. They didn't meet setback requirements. We had to make the new developers do lot line adjustments and all those things to make it meet all of our codes. One of the houses was built over an existing sewer line, which they had to abandon and relocate, so on and so forth. So here we are now. We have 2 houses that are almost complete, are for sale, and have active offers. We have some of the road work that's been complete, so it's at least passable. But the developer came to us and said, the market's changing a lot. We're not sure that the original plan of building the other homes and then trying to sell them is going to be very feasible, and they think it would be better to go ahead, get financing, build the homes, and then rent them out, because there's a big space in the rental market here for this type of housing. They may be right, but they're asking us for some assistance in getting the road done. It's another one of those things that, I feel bad for the neighbors and all this who have had to navigate this for several years. And we do need to get those public improvements complete. So what they're asking is that we provide up to $300,000 to them for construction of the new road, storm drainage improvements, and any remaining utility work necessary to complete that road. If we were to do this, I think we would do a number of things to try and protect that investment. On one hand, we're building public infrastructure that normally we would build anyways, right? But we made a deal and we sold the lots to them at an extremely discounted rate in exchange for them doing this work. So, we were thinking that, we not just transfer the funds directly to developer, but basically pay the contracts that they have. We would have a loan agreement with them, which would require their payment, but additionally, we would receive a personal guarantee from the developers, as well as put liens on some of the properties to give us a little bit more leverage. I think this is an allowable use of the city's housing funds. This wouldn't be a general fund obligation. But that's kind of where we are. On one hand, I really don't like bringing this to you, but, we need housing, and that infrastructure really needs to be done. So if we can help facilitate that happening, I think we need to consider it. Now, this recommendation includes giving them 20, so one concern I had initially was, with this model, if they maintain ownership of those and they're just generating revenue from rental housing, we aren't going to wait 10 years to get our $300,000 back, right? And it's going to be difficult for them to generate, a lump sum to be able to pay us off for very much revenue. And their plan on that would be to get a loan to construct the homes, borrow the money from us for the houses, and then once all the rental housing is complete, they would put it all into one new loan, including a payoff for us under their corporation, and then so one financing package for the whole thing, and that would allow them to be able to pay us off.
Thank you, Mr. Flora. Questions for staff? Councilmember Kramer?
Yes, Mr. Flora, you said we would be taking I assume a deed of trust. What position is that deed to press going to be? Are we going to be first, or are we going to be behind the lenders for the construction?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we can try to be first. I mean, that often complicates various financial institutions' willingness to do that. So, I don't know if it will be possible to get a first on that or not. That's why I think we need to have multiple ways to try to secure this for us. But, I mean, even with just the loan agreement, we have a way to do that, but it basically requires us to, have a contract dispute in court if they don't pay, right? So it would be nice to have something more than that. They said they're willing to also give a personal guarantee, and figure out some type of security on some of the property.
It always worries me from my past banking experience, being in second place sometimes becomes a disaster in a falling market, if that were to be. But at the same time, I definitely believe we need to get those houses built. I'd rather see them try to sell them as rent them, or maybe rent them on with the first option to buy to the renter. Something that would incentivize a renter even to purchase a house at some point. But that's getting more down in the weeds than we can tonight. So anyhow, that was my question.
All right. Councilmember Overton.
Answered. So we're going to have several different ways in the agreement to be able to get our money back. A personal guarantee, a lien on something, one of the houses or both houses that are completed.
Well, I don't think we would probably do it on the houses that were completed, because those, I mean, assuming that those sell, I think they are in contract, or at least they have offers on them. And so that would be, the developer would have sold those to John Doe, right? But the remaining properties, I think we would have to pick some of those or all of those and have something recorded on them.
Yeah, because I'm wondering that if they do build the houses, if they're going to get a loan to build the houses, probably with us having a lien on it, is going to be hard for them to get a bank loan on that. I think that's going to be a hard scenario for them to be able to finish the project.
It could be. But, I mean, it's also, they want we don't have to give them everything they want either. I mean, they're asking us to help them make this happen. And I think, some accommodation's okay, but that doesn't mean that we should, take an enormous amount of risk either. So.
Right, I agree. I don't, so, yeah, I mean, I'm okay with this as long as we have some, I don't think the lien on the properties is gonna probably be the way that we're gonna get.
Probably not the strongest thing.
Yeah, it's not the strongest thing. I don't think so either. So, the developer, what kind of, stability do they have? Have we checked it out?
Well, I mean, you just never quite know. They've been pretty successful in a number of developments in Southern California. I don't know all the ins and outs of the deal here. I mean, I feel like that, some developers wouldn't be asking us for this either, but these are the ones that own the property right now.
And the road needs to be fixed for them to be able to sell the houses.
Right.
So, I agree with that. So, well, I think as long as you can figure out a way to secure the best you can, then, I think this is something that probably, the road needs to be fixed, definitely needs to be fixed. It's been horrible for years. So, in fact, most of the time you can't even pass it. I've seen police officers not have to turn around and go back the other way when they're on a chase. So, so I think it does need to be fixed. So, I'm okay with this as long as we can secure it the best we can.
All right, thank you. Mayor Slutin.
Yeah, a couple of questions. I think you said there's about $300,000 to fix the road and the drainage. Is that by estimate by our city engineer?
I think it's based on, they have existing contracts in place to do the work. So I think it's based on that. we did have an engineer's estimate, but I think it's quite old at this point, when it was designed, so.
Okay. And how many houses have they built so far of the 18 lots we gave?
2.
We built 2? So can we?
As many as we can, yeah.
Okay. So that's, 16, that's still,
The value of the land is gonna be less than the loan in that case, but we're also expecting that they're probably going to be building some stuff on them and increasing the value too, but, that's why, I don't think the lien is the ultimate solution necessarily. We need to kind of attack it from different ways.
but,
The lien
and all
also-
these,
I don't know by completing the road work, they would have to have all those stub outs done, in order to pave the road. So, yeah, those would all be complete. I don't know for sure if they're all done at this moment. But yeah, it would be part of the project to have that all done.
okay.
Well,
But on the other hand, they're worthless as far as I'm concerned, especially if somebody just went through a divorce, so.
Thank you, Mr.
Just-
Mayor. Councilmember Kramer.
Yeah, is that personal guarantee on the person that went through the divorce or the other fellow? Okay, just as a point of interest, if there's 16 lots involved, that's spread out of the 300,000 is 18,750 per lot. If they have sewer and water to them.
They're
and a
worth it then, probably.
Decent, yeah, they're gonna be worth a lot more than that, so I think taking a lien on the lots in some way, manner, and have them paid down as they sell each house. Or in 24 months would be the.
Oh, I was gonna mention, we put 24 months in there, although, they said that they expected, to be complete between 15 and 18 months for what that's worth, so.
They'd pay us back at the end of that period then?
Right,
rather?
I have a question. So you said there's still a mechanism for us to take back the lots at this point. Can you give us some details on what
Well,
parameters?
yeah,
we'll-
essentially, we would have to just go to court and ask the court to enforce the agreement that we had originally, which said that you will do this work within a certain period of time, which they have not done. And so we would just ask the court to enforce that, and I don't know if City Attorney Jones wants to talk about just in our discussions, we didn't think it sounded like a very favorable path, but.
I think that's right. It's called a right of reverter. We put it in there for this idea that if things went back, we could claw it back. We still can, but I think the mechanism to do that might be more complicated than it's worth. I think this path is maybe a better path for now, but there was a reason we put it in the first place.
So would this new agreement change that in any way? So if they build 2 more additional houses, but then, again, fail in their responsibilities, do we still have that option to go down that path, or does it change?
Well, I don't believe that the agreement, so the violation of the agreement that they have now isn't related to construction of the homes, because we didn't put a timeline on for when they had to construct them. The timeline was for when they had to do the storm drainage and the road, which, so, if the road's done and all that is finished, then they wouldn't be in violation of the agreement anymore. But the agreement that we're putting together, I don't think would impact that original one, based on that, so.
I agree with that.
Would it supersede it?
We're sort of running 2 separate tracks.
Councilmember Overton?
So when we sold that property to them, it was on the agreement that they were going to build houses and sell them, wasn't it? Not rent them?
I'd have to go back and look at the agreement. I don't believe that that was
Probably didn't
specified.
put it in there, but that's what we had talked about
Right.
at the
That's what
meeting,
we
was that they
expected.
were gonna
I mean,
build and
you know,
sell.
it's true, it's a different market now than it was 2 years ago,
I
so.
totally agree, yeah, so,
I mean, there are some things still moving. I mean, the 2 houses that they have done, I think there's a real high likelihood that those will sell, but, you know, I mean, by the time they have the road constructed, interest rates may be another 2% higher than they are today, so.
yeah, okay.
Mayor Sluten, any additional questions for staff?
No, not at this point. The only comment I would, again, make is I'm not in favor of a personal guarantee, particularly since these people are, just went through a divorce. I'm sorry, but.
Okay, let's open it up for public comment. Anyone in the room like to say something? Yes, sir, come up.
Bruno Sabatier, City of Clearlake. Unfortunate how messy this is. This is the second property where it kind of has the same taste to it, where there's certain promises to infrastructure that were made and things that are having to be done by the city in order to resolve those things. First, the sidewalk for the Hope Center, and now the road for this. Just looking forward, because I think unfortunately, in the situation that you're in the city, is you have to work with these developers. You have to figure out how to get them incentives and interest to be here. But maybe setting those infrastructure part of the agreement to be the first things that get done, so that then you don't have a situation when you're trying to claw back and there's another piece of property that's been developed with a house and that gets to muddy the waters. So maybe in the future, road goes first, sidewalks go first, and then the rest can go ahead and come. That way you could ensure that you don't have a messy situation.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hi, Margaret Garcia. I'm just wanting to see if I've got this straight. This developer, I mean, basically promised road work in lieu of these properties at a discount, or road work and the lots, in lieu of the discounted lots that you were going to sell them, and so they've fallen on every step, it seems, as far as their agreement and what they've followed through with. Or is that, am I not understanding? It seems like it would be silly to, why not get the rest of the properties back? Because it would seem you're only going to have more problems with each one. And what's that $300,000 for? I'm not clear on that.
City manager, if you want to respond.
It's for construction of a road.
That they were supposed to put in?
Correct.
Yes.
And so you're considering giving them this 300 grand?
It's in the form of a loan.
Gotcha, I understand that part, right. I mean, you might consider half of it and let them, see what happens there, and then the other half, but it seems like you're signing up for nothing but trouble with this, that's all.
Wonderful. Thank you for your comment. Madam Clerk, anyone on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom. Councilmember Claffey.
Thank you. I will bring it back for discussion and action. Councilmember Overton.
So, and I understand her concerns here, which is, I think, probably all of our concerns, but originally, we should have been doing the roads. It was an agreement. Those lots had been sitting there forever, that probably nobody was ever going to build on. We had the opportunity to get something done with them. And this is going to be a loan. They're going to be paying it back. So we're not basically giving it to them. It's going to be, and I think, of course, I don't want just a personal loan, but I do think, that is another guarantee for us. So I think if we're going to do this, we need to take every step. I'm okay with doing it because I think the road needs to be done, and as long as we take every step to try to recoup our money, sooner or later, we're going to have to do it anyway ourselves. If they didn't build, we were going to have to do it. So I just look at it as this is an opportunity that we loan them the money, we're going to get it back, and we can still use it for something else.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just add on, I mean, that is, if, for example, if we were to do the clawback provision and go through the process and get the properties back, we would take money from the housing fund and build the road. So, and then sell the lots at that point, so.
Councilmember Kramer.
Yeah, I would agree with Councilmember Overton, actually with the lady in the audience. It's a messy situation. The original two people in it are the husband and wife that are getting divorced. Now, it's just the wife that's still involved. And then there's another principal other than the one that, Mr. Vano, that has the money. There's three people that are involved, and just one of them is the one that was in the original agreement.
Yes.
And so all three of those folks will be part of the loan that's being made. I don't like personal agreement or personal guarantees either, but the personal guarantee would be from all three or just from the one?
I mean, you can tell me what you want me to do, or I can get as much as I think we can get. I mean,
My feeling is that we should be securing it with the land. And then, if there's some sort of a early payoff as houses sell, then that would be even better. But we have to get it done. We have to get the roads done. We're in this far. We need to go forward, in my opinion.
Are there any options in there for an early payoff?
well, I
How
mean,
is that outlined?
this came up, kind of came to a culmination last week, and so because of our schedule, I wanted to just go ahead and get it on here. So I haven't drafted an agreement. I wanted to see if the council was interested in moving forward with this. So I'm hoping to get some direction and authority based on, what you want me to do. And we can add all that in, or you can tell me to get as much as I can get, and we can make it happen.
Mr. Mayor.
The only additional comment is we have to make sure that we are correct in who has title now to all these properties. Is it just her? Is it a new corporation? Or does her ex-husband still have interest in it? And we have to make sure that we have that covered. That's all the final comment I have. Thanks.
Councilmember Kramer.
And at the end of the day, we've made a goal of increasing our market rate housing, and this is probably the best thing we have going at the moment. We're in the process of it. As messy as it is, I think it's still the best opportunity we have in the near term. So that's my final comment.
Wonderful. So at this point, do you have the direction you need, or do you need approval from the council to execute the loan agreement?
Well, it seems pretty clear, but, I mean, if you don't mind, just, if you're supportive of it, one of the options on the staff report, authorizing the city manager to develop and execute a loan agreement for completion of the 36th Avenue Road project, and voting on that would be ideal.
So we're asking for a motion.
Yeah.
If we're ready. Councilman Claffey, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the city manager to develop and execute a loan agreement for completion of the 36th Avenue Road project.
We have a motion by Councilmember Kramer, a second by Councilwoman Overton. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Councilmember Overton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer?
Aye.
Councilmember Claffey?
Aye.
Mayor Slotin?
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Purdock is abstained.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Claffey. All right, moving on to item number 12, consideration of a 5-year agreement with Axon Enterprises, Inc. for 30 body-worn cameras and a digital evidence management. Chief White?
Just getting the presentation set. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, members of the public. The item before you tonight is consideration of renewing our contract with Axon Enterprise for body-worn camera. This time I'll turn it over to Acting Lieutenant Peterson to present the report.
Good evening. So our current contract that we have is going to be ending at the end of the year. The current cost is $19,000 a year. What that has is limited storage capacity of our cloud, which is where all of our body-worn camera footage goes to and other evidence that we collect using the Axon applications. It also does not provide us any access to Axon's Respond or performance programs. So this is the Axon network, and we have everything except for the CCTV, the documents, and the citizen video, where citizens can add evidence. We don't have those options, but all the others we do through the evidence.com portion of the Axon. So the recommended proposal is, again, for 5 years. The initial cost would be $37,031.70 for the first year, and then each additional year after that would be $33,837.86, with a total of $172,383.14 cumulative for the 5 years. The cost difference for the first year is 78.09% increase, and then for over the life, if you did the 19,000, what we have now for 5 years, compared to what it's going to be, there's an 81.45% increase. What's included with this is an unlimited cloud storage and access to their Axon Respond and Axon Performance. Again, right now we don't have the unlimited access for storage of our.
Can I ask you what that is, the response to the performance?
We're going to go, yeah, that's part of it. So the Axon Respond, what that is it's for our cameras. It gives us GPS location of our cameras, which is a huge officer safety issue. We have currently, with our mobile data terminals that are in our vehicle, a GPS location for that. But once an officer leaves that vehicle, we don't know where they're at. So this would provide a GPS location of where the officer is. And it's also will provide, if we activate our tasers at all, not deploy it, but just turning it on, it would send an extra alert. So if an officer was in peril or fighting or something and not able to get to the radio to call out, it would send the alert to the dispatch saying, hey, this has been activated, start more officers. And during large-scale events like fires, you could actually coordinate. If you have people on foot, you'd be able to know where everyone is, to be able to coordinate those different things through the GPS. And one small note, like we had an officer had their body camera fall off during a struggle at Walmart. A citizen went by and picked it up, walked out the door with it. We did recover it, but the GPS locate, we would have been able to recover it a lot faster. So this is what kind of a view of what the dispatchers would see, and with the different labels kind of show that those are the body cameras there. So if they were to look, the dispatch saying this is where the officers are. So the Axon Performance, what that is it allows to have metrics to show and audit activity in the devices. So all of our devices are connected, our tasers, our body cameras, the in-car cameras that we're going to be having next year. So if the taser's turned on, our body camera turns on. If we activate our emergency lights in our vehicle, the in-car camera comes on, our body camera will come on. So we'll be able to track all that on a management point, be able to look and see graphs and if it's being used compared to incidents and the utilization, if it's being appropriate and being done correctly. Also, it will select random videos out of all the queues for supervisors to review. So it'll say, hey, look at these 4 videos randomly, so you could evaluate, employee performances, and it's not it won't be seen as much as like, oh, you're picking on me. No, this is a random audit that a computer chose. The officers or the supervisors did not choose this. So this is kind of a view of how the performance would look, so the different things that supervisors would be able to see to evaluate, and then also how it would set up for the random views of the body-worn camera footage or the car camera footage. So again, it would make supervisors' reviews more efficient. We'd be able to see a lot bigger picture in this. Everything be all in one for the performance. And then we'd be able to evaluate and make sure our policies are in line for what we're seeing. So, any questions?
Councilmember Kramer.
Yes, I had one question. What happens to the cameras that you have now, your body cameras that you have now?
So we have a dock, we can't delete the videos off our cameras. That's all controlled by Axon. We put them in the dock, it uploads into the cloud. Axon has 4 secure sites throughout the nation. So if one was to go down, they have 3 basic repetitive backups. So that's where it's all kept.
What I'm actually asking is, the cameras that you have, your officers have now, are they going to be retained? Are they going to be turned in? Are they traded in? Do they have any value?
So this will work with the current cameras we have now.
Okay, so we're
And then the current agreement also is, if I remember correctly, yeah, they're going to be replaced in December because our contract, as the new technology comes out, we have a repetitive replacement of our technologies.
So the cameras you have now will actually physically be replaced?
Yes.
And is there any value to those cameras that you're replacing?
The ones that we have get turned back over to Axon because they give us the new ones, we give them the old ones. And that's the rotation.
No trade-in value is the question.
Correct. It's part of the contract we're
I
already
see
in.
Chief White shaking his head no, so.
Yeah.
And is it, or do we have, I think it was 34 was the number that you're getting?
30.
30. Do you have, are you adding more, or is that the same number you have?
We're folding in, so originally when the department adopted the cameras, it was just to sworn police officers. Then it was expanded to CSO, then we expanded it to animal control, and then finally we expanded to code enforcement. So we have a bunch of overlapping agreements and acquisitions, some of which are supported. You'll notice like the cameras that code enforcement's using is an older generation camera, and now they'll all be the same, and we'll also be spreading the cost out amongst the contributing funds. So code enforcement will pay their share, the Measure P will pay a portion. So right now, general fund takes the primary impact for the cameras.
So again, the 19,000 you're paying now, does that include all of those expanded cameras that you talked about getting, or?
No, it currently includes the, I think the count under that is 20, if I remember off the top of my head, I believe it's the 26 that are under the full support. And then we're paying separately for licensing for the additional to get up to the count of 30.
The actual cost increase is not quite as much as.
No doubt about it, they're increasing their prices. The problem is the cost of storage hasn't gone up. In fact, the cost of digital storage has gone way down. However, they're making a lot of value add in their products. So before it was really just a body camera, right? It records video. Now with all this integration and the other pieces, they're getting value add. And unfortunately, we looked at alternatives to see, and it's just, if you go away, the integration with the taser device, the integration with the car and all that stuff, it just doesn't make sense to do it. And, so it makes it difficult. I think what we did do to try to manage costs for the city, you can see the alternate proposal, which is what they really want you to go to. We stayed with a la carte. And quite frankly, the city, when I came here in 2018, was right after they negotiated the contract. The city had a really good contract to implement body-worn camera, and I know there was community support that helped fund that. Unfortunately, our usage, I was looking at our rates. So in 2017, we recorded about 2.8 terabytes of video, or about 14,000 video clips. In 2018, it went to 18,000, and we made a big push with our policy and everything else. Now we're averaging 25 to 26,000 video recordings a year. So we've greatly exceeded, across the last term contract, the storage. So I think our contract was believe maybe 8 terabytes of storage or something, and we're actually utilizing like up to 18 or something according to the rep. And they never charged us any more for that. So I guess we're kind of we're paying back some of what we should have been paying before.
So the return on investment, though, in your opinion, is well worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, our risk manager, our city attorney could attest that, you know, one single case, having video, it's just, I don't see, quite frankly, how you can do law enforcement these days without having it. The other part is, as you mentioned on the presentation, the performance side, that if you look at where things are going, having an audit program in place is the next logical step. And right now, Lieutenant Hobbs was kind of the lead on the audit side of things, of utilization. He had to make like this spreadsheet. He had this complicated formula to figure it out. And we just recently went to do it, and it no longer works because of the way data is stored. So we're paying for those additional functionality. So I think to your point is, yeah, there's an increase, but we're also getting additional functionality. And by doing a la carte, you know, we're selectively not choosing some other stuff because we just don't see the use case at this point, but we could always add it on later.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Claffey.
Yes, thank you. So just so I am clear, are the cameras constantly recording, or are they only activated during certain moments?
So the body cameras they have a 30-second lead that is just video. They're not constantly recording until you turn it on. There is like I said, if I turned my body camera on, it would have 30 seconds of video ahead, but no audio. And then once it's activated, that's when it adds in the audio.
So for our police officers, I see here when the taser is activated or armed, it's triggered. If the lights in the squad car go on, it's triggered. Are they able to manually activate the camera as well? Are there any other triggers that would activate the camera?
Yeah, you can manually activate it, or again, through activating the vehicle lights once the car cameras are installed, that will do it, or by activating the taser. And part of that, where that's good, is you could be getting out of your car, getting ready to walk up, and then have an encounter where you have to activate your taser or something, or if you didn't hit it right to manually turn it on, it makes sure that it turns it on when you're going to be using that device. Okay. So it really is a benefit, and it catches that 30 seconds ahead, you know, to give you good context of why that was done.
So for our code enforcement and for our animal control as well, they'll be having these. I guess what's our policy around recording interactions?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I mentioned before the evolution with animal control, North Bay does not use body cameras, and that's a decision of their board in terms of their interactions. As far as the activation for the criteria, it's covered in our policy 422, which is on our website. And essentially, it says that the body-worn camera should be activated in the following situations. And basically, it's traffic stop type situations, calls for service involving domestic violence, sexual assault, suicidal persons, weapons, or potential use of force, pre-planned incidents, probation parole searches, community caretaking sweeps, forced entry, any other contact that becomes adversarial that would not otherwise require recording. We do have a carve-out such that officers can exercise discretion to respect privacy and discontinuing recording when that privacy may outweigh any legitimate law enforcement interest in recording. So, you know, we've had situations where victims of, you know, very serious crimes have not felt comfortable being recorded, and it's a decision of the officer. It's very difficult for us because the jury expects that, but we have that carve out. The other situation would be in like hospital settings, because we may have the person that we brought there, but you may be at the hospital just getting treated. And so we try to be respectful of those situations and not be intrusive. I'll tell you that we consciously have in there the should. There's a policy declaration which says we teach people a should is almost like a shall, unless you have a good reason not to, but we intentionally don't have shall in every possible situation because we do place value in the officers using their discretion of when to record. Looking at our usage numbers, you can clearly tell they record a lot.
Great. Thank you both.
Councilmember Overton.
Well, I have seen myself where, the video has come in handy when people have told me things and our chief has researched and viewed and said, no, this is not exactly what happened. So, because people tend to tell you things that may not always be. So I like that we have the cameras because that's happened several times where somebody's complained and chiefs looked at it and said, no, that's not. So having the cameras, I think, are awesome. I love the idea that they're going to come on, especially when taser or if they're away from their cars and something happens. When we have these fires, police are everywhere too, and you don't know if they're safe when they're out of their cars. So I think this is essential for any police department nowadays. Just with the complaints and the attack on police departments alone, I think this is essential for us to do. So I'm glad that we do have a system like this that we can put into our and keep, is not just keep our public safe, but it is also to keep our officers safe. And to me, that's important too. So you guys are out there protecting us. I want to be able to protect you guys. So I think this is a great idea.
And if I could just say, note, there's also studies which show that with body cameras being activated, that not only, officers should always be on their best behavior regardless, but there's also studies that show that the adversarial response from citizens generally will act better because they know they're being recorded as well. So that's actually, that's another benefit that comes out of this as well.
Great. Mayor Slutin.
Again, kudos for getting our chief the best stuff that it's around, and thank you for keeping us at the highest level of technology in our city. It is a good thing. Thank you.
Seeing no other comments by council, any public comments on this topic? Bruno gave a thumbs up. Anyone on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to comment that this is an essential tool. I echo your sentiments, Councilmember Overton, and I love the new additions. Thinking back to the old micro cassette recorders that we used to use, that saved a lot of people when those complaints came in. So I'd love to see the advances in technology.
Mr. Vice Mayor,
Mr. Kramer,
if we are ready for a motion, I'd like to make one.
please.
Make a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-63, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Clearlake authorizing the Chief of Police to enter into a 5-year lease with Axon Enterprise for body-worn cameras and digital evidence management system.
And I'll second that.
I have a motion by Councilmember Kramer and a second by Councilmember Overton. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Councilmember Overton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer?
Aye.
Councilmember Claffey?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdock?
Aye.
Mayor Slotin?
Aye.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you, Chief. Moving on to item number 13. We're asked to have a discussion and give direction to staff regarding the appointment of a city treasurer. Mr. Flora, or are you going to pass that to Ms. Swanson?
Swanson.
Honorable Mayor and council members, as you are aware, there were no qualified candidates for city treasurer this election cycle. Both the regular nomination period and the write-in nomination period have officially closed. The seat will become vacant effective November 9th. Pursuant to the municipal code, the city manager is appointed in the absence of an elected treasurer until a successor is appointed or elected. It will be the council's decision to direct staff on how to proceed. Staff has brought this for your consideration tonight in order to provide sufficient time if the council decides to take applications before the next council meeting on December 1st. You may direct staff to accept applications from qualified electors to fill that term and make appointment at that time, or direct staff to begin the process of a special election to fill the term, or appoint the city manager at the December meeting. So it is appropriate for the council to discuss and direct staff tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Any comments? Yes.
Can you give a description of exactly what the city treasurer does? I mean, we have a finance director. Years ago, basically what they did is they came in, they transferred the money, they signed some documents, and that was it. They hardly ever showed up to the meeting, and when they did, they really didn't give the report. The finance director still give the report. So I'm just curious at this point of, can you give us an idea of exactly what the treasurer's responsibility is?
Sure.
Oh, go, I was looking up the municipal code right now, but go for it.
All right. So it is in section 2-5.1, and the city treasurer shall receive and safely keep all money coming into their hands as treasurer. They comply with all laws governing the deposit and securing of public funds and handling of trust funds in their possession. They pay out money only on warrants signed by legally designated persons, and they prepare a written report and accounting of all receipts, disbursements, and fund balances as of the last day of each month. They then submit those reports to the city clerk on or before the 10th day of the following month, and file a copy with the city council for acceptance at the council meetings. They also may appoint deputies, and the city treasurer actually receives a $300 per month stipend per the Muni Code. So
At the time, that's what the
what they
councils
do.
were receiving, so.
Miraculously, all of these things happen without one.
Right, that's what I'm gonna say. So if there was a city treasurer, they would literally have to have an office in here, and I don't, you know, I mean, okay, so I just kind of wanted to clarify that that's, you know, because it seems like that's what our finance person does already. So, I mean, it's like,
Well, I mean, if the.
going out for a special election, I'm not.
If the council would like to give us direction additionally on putting a measure on the ballot, not a special election, I wouldn't recommend, but at some point in the future to eliminate this as a elected position, we could do that. You may recall that this was done a few years ago when the city clerk was on there, and it actually failed for some reason, but, yeah.
I don't think that people realize, you know, I mean, what it really entails. And, I mean, we have, you know, right now, there's a person out there that, you know, says, well, I always just worry about somebody getting in that really isn't qualified to do the position. And then what do we do if they're elected and they get in, and then we're in kind of the same situation as, I don't know, sometimes the county gets themselves into. So I don't want to end up in that type of a position. So I personally would like to see the city manager just be appointed at this point in time and look at putting this back on the ballot for the next election.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Claffey.
Since staff has done this work, how many hours a month do you think it entails?
I really have no idea. I mean, it's not really that much. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, some of the stuff on the deposits and things like that staff take care of, I mean, we haven't really made an attempt on, you know, quantifying how many hours that is, but over the last few years, we've gotten a lot more efficient on all of these things, for sure, and, I mean, trying to separate that out for some new person would be, you know, a real mess, to be honest.
Thank you.
So if we appoint you, do you get the stipend?
Well, I haven't been getting it, but if you would like to give it to no, I don't get the stipend. Yeah.
So unfortunately, we haven't had someone interested in this role. I do think it does play a valuable oversight role if filled properly. We can't control that. We can't control who raises their hand to take on the challenges of the city. I would hate to see it taken off. I do think that we should go with option 3, where we put out a formal application process. If none of them rises to the bar, I think in December we appoint our city manager. But I do think this role is important, and it should be filled. I hope citizens out there see the value of that and eventually fill it. Maybe next decade, we'll find out. And I also think the salary should be at least on par with city council, or the stipend, rather. So that would be my direction.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mayor Slutin.
I think we should proceed with what we've done the last 4 election cycles, I believe, and appoint our city manager as the city treasurer. And then I do think that the position is becoming superfluous based on our way of managing things with a finance director. So I think at some point in time, we do need to put it on the ballot and see if people really want it or not. And if we do, I suggest an off-year election cycle.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Kramer?
Yeah, this part of the process is usually meant to ask questions of Ms. Swanson or Mr. Flora, but since everybody else has made a comment, I would agree with Mayor Slotin on the direction. I think the position is antiquated. It's being performed by our city manager and or our finance director. I just don't see the need for it either.
Okay.
Just as a comment, when this whole city clerk, city treasurer, at some point in time, there were actually county surveyors that were elected, which is totally ridiculous in things. So this is part of that technology and all that is taking care of these things and can be done better another way. Thanks.
Thank you. We have not opened it up for public comment yet, so I'd like...
Before you do, Vice Mayor, I think
Okay.
Ms. Swanson has something to add.
Oh, another...
I just wanted to add that in the government code, there are specific positions within a general law city that are required, and that is the council, the city attorney, the city manager, the clerk, and the treasurer. They're all required, whether they're elected or appointed is up to the voters of the city. And when we had it in 2016 on the ballot, as you know, the city clerk did pass. The treasurer almost passed at a 50.5% against and a 49.5% in favor of appointment. So it's very close. So we can, in 2024, make preparations to put that on the ballot again, if you'd like.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Mayor?
I think the reason the city clerk passed is because of our current city clerk. She made it possible that was passed.
Maybe the community doesn't realize how good of a job I'm doing as city treasurer.
I'm sure that's it. Any comments from chamber? Anyone here in the audience? Mr. Sabatier?
Good evening again. I was actually thinking the same thing of the measure. I personally, I've changed my mind. Earlier, I thought, yes, this is a democratic process. You have a lot more oversight. But at a stipend, even if you bring it to $500, there's no qualifications whatsoever for the position, which means they may not know what they're doing. And they can have an impact on your finances, and your finances is what runs everything smoothly, whether it's your salaries or whether it's the projects that you're trying to get accomplished here in the city, and you're trying to accomplish a whole lot. I have faith that I'm voting for 5 individuals that sit in front of me on the dais that get to look at the warrant, just like there was today on the consent agenda, to review what has been spent. Every year, you guys approve an audit that the city manager works with a contractor to get accomplished to review all your finances. To me, a treasurer only potentially creates complications unless you're willing to pay them for the rightful amount and have the right qualifications. And still, and I'm not trying to crack a joke, there still can be some blowback on that. It doesn't always mean you're going to get the right person in the position to do exactly what needs to get accomplished. So I think there is oversight. Without the treasurer's position, I'd be comfortable with it, and I would really look forward to voting for that on 2024.
Thank you for your comments. Madam Clerk, is there anyone on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Yeah, I want to, before I call for an action. This has been a problem. I actually had people calling me, asking questions about the city treasurer and how they should vote and that type of thing, or get some background at least, which I tried to provide. But I think it's confusing. I concur with Mr. Sabatier and the mayor's comments. I think it's obsolete, and I'd like to see it on the 2024 ballot. And until that time, we appoint the city manager to act in that stead. Those are my comments. Absolutely. Go ahead, council member.
Only because I've been here for 17 years, and I dealt with when we did have a city treasurer. It was really a sad situation. I just really feel like it's not, that's what we're here for. Like our supervisor said, we're here for that oversight. That's why we're appointed, for that oversight. Even if the treasurer did their job and actually did their job, it's still our job to go through the warrants and approve it anyway. And hopefully everybody is looking at those things, and see that. But you're right, there's no qualifications. Anybody can get into that position and really be detrimental to us. So I really feel like it is something that we should have, just our finance department, be, we're the oversight. So I do think I'd like to see it on the ballot the next time and try it again. So I think if people understood it a little better than when we put it out before, I don't think we really advertised why we're doing it. And I think we just need to push and let people know why we're actually wanting to remove that and make it just part of our city. And I think we just need to advertise it a little bit better and explain to people. So, but our last treasurer was nothing.
Appreciate
Appreciate
your comments and your experience. We're asked to give direction to staff. I'm not clear exactly. Mr. Mayor, would you like to start as far as what you're asking staff to do? I thought in my closing summation I provided my opinion.
I think we should appoint our city manager as the city treasurer and direct staff to update and put it on a ballot at some future date to see if the position can be eliminated.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Claffey, any final comments?
I'd still prefer option 3. I'd like to put it out to the community. If none meet our bar, we can still appoint the city manager. I think we all hold his financial skill in high regard. So it'll be a high bar for citizens to be appointed by us, but I still think that's a better path.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Kramer.
Yes, I definitely think that we should appoint the city manager as our city treasurer, and at some certain point, whether it's 2024 or beyond, that we should put the ballot before the voters to see if we can eliminate this, what I consider to be an obsolete, antiquated position. We have plenty of, as Supervisor Sabatier pointed out, we have oversight in many ways, from the 5 of us reviewing the warrants each meeting to certainly the audit that we do pretty much every year. So I think that the position of treasurer is, as it stands now, is not warranted, not needed. I want to appoint the city manager on our December 1st meeting.
Thank you. Thank you all for your comments. Mr. Floor, do you have direction?
It seems clear to me we have a majority, yeah.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our business section. We'll go on to the city manager and council member reports. Mr. Flora.
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor, council members, a few updates. The sunflower, there hasn't been a giant cloud of dust, but there's been a lot of asbestos abatement over the last week or so. I stopped and talked to the contractor yesterday. They're expecting to be done this week, and then we have probably a couple days of work from Cherno Excavating to complete that project. Wanted to let the council know, we had a meeting, I think maybe the mayor mentioned this during his report at the last meeting, but we had sort of a group meeting with the county, some elected folks and staff of the city of Lakeport, and then the mayor and councilmember Claffey were there discussing the rec center, sort of JPA agreement. We had a presentation from some experts related to that, and there was agreement on moving forward, sort of with a process and some polling to determine, the public support related to this. And so we're working on an agreement related to that. So I'm just letting you know it's within my authority. There is a cost share agreement related to that. It's my understanding and belief that all the council members are in support of moving forward on this process, so I plan to do so unless there's any additional feedback from the council. The youth center, Lake County Youth Services has, I believe, removed everything from the building. As far as I understand, they're done removing things from the building, so we still have a couple sinks in the kitchen. And they did contest our unlawful detainer, so there is an eviction hearing on November 14th. I explained to some representatives I didn't understand why they moved everything out when they thought they were going to try to contest our eviction hearing, and then they would have to move it all back in if they won, but nonetheless, that's what they did. So we'll keep you updated on that. This has been a kind of slow process over several months, but it's frustrating to see the successes the city's had related to mandatory garbage and our code enforcement efforts, but still continually suffer from a lot of illegal dumping in the community. I know it's going to be difficult to eliminate that entirely, but we've tried to do some additional analysis and see, why is this happening? So we had our GIS consultant do some analysis. I just received some information back from them today. But in spite of mandatory garbage, we got a list of actual customers from our waste hauler and the exemptions that have been approved. And they did analysis of the whole city based on a number of things, whether there's a building on the property, value of structure from tax data and so forth. And it looks like there's somewhere over 1,500 properties that should be receiving, that should have garbage service that do not. And that's a pretty big number. So we're going to set up a meeting with our waste hauler and our city staff and try to figure out what we can do about this, with the hope being that we're able to get garbage service at those occupied properties and, hopefully see less dumping in the community. Thought I would share, I don't know if any of you saw a number of correspondences that came out this afternoon related to Governor Newsom's press conference today, where he symbolically rejected every homeless action plan in the state and halted $1 billion of homelessness funding to cities, counties, and continuums of care. And he said all of the cities need to do better, and if they don't, he's going to be the mayor of California. So I'm sure more to come on that, but it sounds like your job's all in jeopardy, and the plan to demolish local control is, in full force. So, and then with that, I think there's something additional that Chief White wanted to update the council.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to update the council. I know there was a lot of discussion online regarding some threats that were made to our historic trick-or-treating area on Halloween. The department was aware of those. We had been following up prior to that. We had not been able to develop any credible information regarding it, but we know it was circulating around. People were contacting the schools. I was in contact with the superintendent. So I want to let you know we did deploy additional resources. We had 10 additional resources on duty that night that were patrolling within that area and then covering calls for service to try to make sure it was a safe trick-or-treating experience. I received information from the community that they greatly appreciated that. I did make a conscious decision not to publicize that we were doing that, primarily because all this rhetoric was being driven online. I also wanted to mention that I think probably sooner than later, there's going to have to be some discussion probably about whether the police department continues with a Facebook page. If you aren't aware, the animal shelter in Mendocino County had their Facebook page summarily removed, apparently because they used the word euthanasia on there. And they had no notice from Facebook. They tried to reach out, they couldn't get information. And my concern is that, you know, pre-other systems, like pre-Nixle and everything else, that was sort of the de facto platform for the city to get information out. The problem is it's a private enterprise. We do a lot of advertising for a private enterprise by putting it on business cards, those sorts of things. And I think now there's so many better options that exist out there for the city to reach, you know, our constituents, your constituents, and to have a platform that's reliable. Because I could only think is, you know, we have an animal shelter. We were just talking about overpopulation. What if we mentioned a word? I can tell you we had one post since I've been here that was censored, and the best we could tell was because it had the Ford emblem where the police officer is doing a traffic stop. My concern would be is if the public comes, you know, and counts on that Facebook is a source of information, and then we get shut down one night, we can't turn it back on, we're beholden to that. So we don't have anything in the works yet, but I can tell you there's been discussions on more than one agencies about sort of deplatforming and looking at our own solutions. You know, cities can get apps, that sort of thing. It's much more available and control. And then, of course, with Nixle. So two kind of loosely related things, but I just wanted to make sure you knew that we were paying attention. We did hear the community concerns, but I had to make that decision, and I stand by that. I just didn't want to go on and publicize and then further fuel somebody to do something. We are actively working the case that sort of relates to that with the homicide that had occurred. So that's going on. The other thing is that we did have a missing person who was found deceased in the county. Again, some information being circulated online. I can tell you that case was taken in. We did follow up. We did searching in the area and so forth. And as with any other investigation, we will do the investigative work. Sometimes it takes a while to get things done, particularly in a homicide, but you get one shot at getting a case prosecuted. So, you know, we'll take the bad publicity and so forth, but to do the right thing by the community and consistent with the law. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Quick comment. Thank you, Chief, to not be totally reliable on social media. It's not always the best way. And you proved it, and you did the right thing. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Flora. Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Claffey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Vice Mayor.
It's
sorry.
okay.
City Manager Flora mentioned the countywide recreation center meeting. I thought that went really well. I think there's going to be some really great opportunities down the line for our community in building some of these facilities. I had the Lake County Tourism Improvement District meeting this week. It looks like, thanks to some work by Mr. Flora, we are very close to approving or gaining approval to increase the rate up to 2.5% for our out-of-town visitors and get that renewed at the countywide level. I had the pleasure of attending the two events put on by our council members, and I'm sure they will promote it, but just incredible work by both of you organizing the Lower Lake cleanup and, of course, Trunk or Treat. Wonderful turnout, great benefit to our community. Thank you for all the work that you do. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Overton.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it was really nice working with the PEG station and the city and to make this trunk or treat happen. I did come on board kind of the last minute again, and I don't know if some of you guys know that I broke my ankle, so I wasn't out as much. But thank you. Our supervisor, Bruno, got out there and helped get some money to get some candy. Probably the largest event we've had. I didn't really expect it to be as large because it was on a Saturday instead of Thanksgiving, but it seemed like it went very well and was larger than normal. So I think every year this is just going to get bigger. And so I'm going to be working with Tina, our new director of our recreation department, and trying to make, put a festival together. I think we should be having festivals. So we were going to put lights around the trees, and I bought a set of solar lights for Christmas. And we were going to try them out, make sure they work, because Tina and I decided we'd just buy them ourselves. Unfortunately, somebody cut off the solar part of the thing, so we're trying to figure out how we can still maybe do that, but I don't know. We're going to have to work on that, because I'd really like to see that with lights in our park, and start adding every year something, it's going to be a gradual thing. I believe the county was giving us some trees, the fake trees. Is that the county or the city?
Well, they're formerly from the city of Lakeport before they did their streetlights, and they are the property of Lakeport Main Street now, but so that's who offered them to us, so.
So we're going to get some things and going to kind of decorate the gazebo up where Santa Claus is going to be and stuff a little differently than what we normally have. So, and then we're going to be having, on December the 3rd, the morning, we're going to have breakfast with Santa. It is as a cost. It's going to be $15 for adults and $10 for kids. But, we're going to have it, I think it's just one of those things that we're going to add for that day and just keep adding, things so that we can start having festivals on these holidays, make it a true festival thing. I'm going to be doing Thanksgiving luncheon on Thanksgiving Day down at the community center / senior center from 11 to 2. And we're also on the start of the Warm for the Winter program. I've been doing that so long, I can't even remember how long I've been doing that. I think it's 17, 18 years, somewhere around in there. But we're working with Rotarians, the Clearlake Rotary Club, and we're going to be doing the giveaway at their lunch on December 10th. So during that time, we'll be doing our Warm for the Winter. We've been doing that for about 5 or 6, 7 years. So and it works out really well. Everybody can, so they can donate clothes down at the senior center during the hours of 9 to 2. So
What types of clothes in their condition?
good condition, no dirty clothes, and winter clothes. Please don't, no, we don't need any summer clothes. We needed just gloves, socks, hats, coats, warm shirts, pants, stuff like that. So we're really trying to, just keep it at that level because we get overwhelmed with too much clothes when we do it with other things. And then I'm working right now with the Jameson Ranch to do vaccine and chip again. We'll be doing that in February. We have it booked already. So people can start looking forward to maybe thinking, I know that's a little bit ahead, but it's always good to start getting people out there and know that what we're working on. So, and I really do want to thank Tina and for all the work that she's done. She's really working hard to try to make our events pop, and I like working with her. She's got a lot of great ideas, and Bruno, and we're all working with her, and it seems to be working out very well. So I'm glad we made that department.
Thank you for your comments. Councilmember Kramer.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Cluffy, for your comments. I thought the cleanup at the cemetery went exceptionally well. It's a great community event. Moving on, Lake Links meeting, the last one, we are still working on getting the kinks out on our rideshare, our new rideshare program, which will supplement our Pay Your Pal program, where a person has a friend drive them and then we pay them mileage. This one would be basically the same thing, except for instead of a friend, the Lake Links will choose the drivers, and are soliciting drivers. We'll do the background checks and so on. So I think it'll be a great expansion to that service. I was asked by Supervisor Sabatier earlier this week to accept a position on a new committee, Hazard Mitigation Committee. OES, I believe, is overseeing it, County OES. Their first meeting is next Thursday. Unfortunately, I will be unavailable for that, but I'm excited about the opportunity. And last, as far as events in the future, December 9th, we've chosen, which normally in last year, Lower Lake had its Christmas parade on December 2nd, the day before Clearlake did. This year, we're moving it to December 9th, which will be the following week. There'll be a street fair followed by a night parade in Lower Lake. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Slutin.
Well, things got kind of derailed, so I didn't attend any major events. So I really have nothing to report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I kind of had a similar, we haven't had much to do, but I do want to recognize a couple of things that have happened just today. Number one, I'd like to congratulate our local grocery store, foods, et cetera. They are certified now as a Blue Zone store. Quite a good distinction, and offering additional healthy options for your purchasing. Real good project for not just Clearlake, but Lake County in trying to drive our health standards and well-being. And also congratulations to Canoctown Unified School District as being also Blue Zone certified. Attended both of those events today. Looking forward to attending the One Team, One Dream event on Saturday. I think that's going to be a real positive thing. I'd like to thank the city of Clearlake for sponsoring that event. Thank you, Mr. Flora. And that concludes my remarks. So with that, we will adjourn this meeting and go into closed session. Oh, I'm sorry.
before you do.
Future agenda items. I apologize. Sorry,
Well,
Mr. Flora.
normally this isn't a time for me to bring those up, but if the council doesn't have any, I would like to bring one up and see if you want me to bring it back.
Go ahead.
So the sulfur fire was in 2017. The city, after that, created sort of an exemption for folks who lost their home as a result of that fire, that they could build their house back the same as it was before, even if it was non-conforming with the current zoning standards. As you probably know, there's a lot of homes up there that don't, that were built in a time that doesn't conform with some of the zoning standards. So that was a 2-year window. I think we may had a couple of people take advantage of that, but as you know, very few building happened in that 2-year window for a variety of reasons. We're starting to see more happen, and we've had a couple of inquiries recently about whether they could still kind of like fall under that exemption. And, you know, it took insurance a long time to do things. I think some PG&E money finally started rolling out. And so my question to the council is, are you interested in considering that or not? If so, I'll bring something back to talk about it.
Councilmember Claffey?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Was that exemption transferable? So if they sold the property to a new property
I
owner?
don't believe so.
No. Mayor Slotin? Thank you.
But it would have to apply. And are we going to implement the new building code shortly too, or is that something that we need
Yes,
to
it
approve?
wouldn't have any impact on the building code. It's more like some setback limitations, like if it was less than 20 feet in the front setback. There's a few that have, we have a requirement that you have
Well,
covered parking.
If I may,
and
I
some
don't know
of
that we
those
should be
parcels-
discussing all the things that
Right,
should be coming up.
well, I mean, just
Yeah.
trying to give you an idea.
But I think we do need to bring it back, and I would like to see what you can prepare for us.
Would as well.
I second that, yes.
Do we have consensus?
Thank
There
you.
you go. Any other future agenda items? All right. Again, thank you all. We're going to close this session.